Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at the Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the True Story FM Entertainment Podcast Network.
And I'm Pete Wright, and this podcast is a force we can't begin to control.
It feels that way sometimes. Today we're talking about Minute 53, which begins with a very desperate Fury and ends with Loki dragging things out. Back on the show, it's Declan Craggs. Hello, Declan.
Hello.
We are continuing our conversation between Nick Fury and Loki at Loki's cell, while we have a number of our Avengers in the conference room, or I shouldn't say conference room. It's really the bridge, but the conference table on the bridge, as they listen in and watch how things play out. And so I mean, let's kind of jump in there. So we're really kicking in on this moment where Fury is talking about how desperate he is. You threaten my world with war. You steal a force you can't hope to control. You talk about peace, and you kill because it's fun. You have made me very desperate. I guess we talked with you about Nick Fury a little bit when you were first on at the beginning of this season, right, Declan? Did we talk much about Nick Fury? I can't remember.
Well, we definitely talked. I don't know if we got into any details.
I think it was more kind of just about, escaping the base and all of that sort of thing. What do you think of Fury, like this portrayal of Fury? Do you like Samuel L. Jackson as this character?
Very, very much so. I think he's now defined the character. It would be really difficult to imagine Nick Fury as anyone else. I think I'd really struggle. I think a lot of people, would be on that same page, where maybe as well, because I guess the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been around so long now that Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, is the normal. But yeah, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson could play pretty much any role, and it would be great.
He was originally slated for Black Widow, so that's crazy. He could play any role.
Do you think he could handle it if there were any snakes on this? Does this count as a plane?
Snakes on the helicarrier?
They would have definitely got sucked out of the hatch.
Maybe that's actually why he opened it. He wasn't really worried about Loki, but he happened to see some snakes. He's like, God, snakes on the plane again.
That would have been a better speech, too. This was originally designed for something much creepier than you. We didn't joke about yesterday, and I meant to joke about it. There were jokes and gaffes aplenty queued up about the Thor hero trailer shot that we got at the very, very last few seconds of yesterday's minute, where he's with his bulging biceps and thoughtful expression that was used in the trailer as many times as they could. I think it was the only shot used in the trailer, as far as I can remember, with bulging biceps of Chris Hemsworth, long flowing hair. I just want to know, what's he thinking about right now?
His biceps. No, he's just flexing. He's just flexing, going, "Yeah, you like that? You like that?"
He's like, I don't even need to put my hand under my bicep to push it up. It just acts that way.
Actually, I think that he's lucky he has a costume that actually pushes it up, because that armor, like, really.
The costume he wears, he's not got sleeves. Right. He is an Asgardian, but does he get cold?
Did he get cold when Fury opened the hatch just now? Because as you said, Pete, in your research, it gets cold real quick.
Real fast, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should see some goosebumps.
We should have seen a chill wash over the bridge crew. Continuity!
We joked about this last season in this shot during the trailer, because they all are very serious and pensive looking in this particular shot. Like, it is a serious bunch on this bridge at this moment.
Very somber.
Yeah. Going back to Fury, though, I love the way that Samuel L. Jackson plays the character in this scene. He's very, very intense. like the looks that he gives Loki, like it's great. And then kind of that little, it's kind of a smirk, I guess, toward the end after Loki delivers his little bit, the way that he just kind of uses it to just kind of dismiss Loki and the whole joke about the magazine and everything. Like, I just like the way Jackson plays it here. And, he's had his moments throughout the franchise, certainly a lot more in Iron Man 2 as he interacted a lot more with Tony. This is really the first time not the first time, but the first film, I should say, where he actually gets to go up against villains. And this is kind of that moment where he fought Loki at the start of the film, but this is that chance he gets to actually kind of have his conversation with him. And I really like the way that these two actors are playing the scene together. But I do have a question. We do get this line about Loki, he kills because it's fun. Is that referencing anything? Is he just assuming that Loki was having fun at the start of the film and that's why all this stuff happened? Like, what is his sense of saying that as a line?
I don't know. I think it's a bridge too far. I think he's just, he's blustering right now and just like Loki is blustering, like when Loki turns around and says, what is your big gambit here? You want a warm light for all the world? Like, it's just like these guys are hand wavy, blustery guys at each other right now. And I think he probably is saying you kill because it's fun, like the crew on CSI Miami says you kill because it's fun, because it's what you say to your perp when he's in the cell. I don't know that he necessarily has any reason to be other than he was there. Like, he doesn't really know Loki's true motivation because he doesn't know what the scepter does.
Now I just actually want to hear Fury call Loki his perp at some point.
Yeah. I'll bet Fury has said the word perp a lot in his life.
And do you think this is Fury's version of playing good cop or bad cop right now?
Is Fury no, he just changes his eye patch to the other side.
It's not like an interrogation, though, is it, between Fury and Loki? Because he's not asking him any questions. He's just throwing some threats around and saying, yeah, you've made me desperate.
Yeah, right.
Which is the opposite of an interrogation.
Well, and also, let's be clear, there's no justice system here. He's already in the cell. Like, it's not... And he's threatening his life. Like, there's no justice system. They're just two big men talking big men words.
So he's Judge Judy and executioner then.
Man, comma placement is important in that phrase.
Anyway,
I don't know how to make a shirt out of that, but you can bet I'm trying.
that's a random pull
and leaves
from
Judge, Judy, and executioner.
No, it's from Hot Fuzz.
It was funny then too.
It's always funny then. Okay. Loki is speaking some truth here. And this is where we start getting some interesting stuff going on in this scene, because I think it's saying a few things. It's saying that, we're talking about the Tesseract. This is where the conversation really shifts. Fury starts this, bringing the Tesseract in. You steal a force you can't hope to control. And then Loki uses that. He says, it burns you to have come so close to have the Tesseract, to have power, unlimited power. And for what? A warm light for all mankind to share. And we'll know from later that he is referencing Tony and his clean energy. But really, the whole idea here is that he's aware. And I'm assuming that he knows all this because of Clint, which means Clint actually was in the know that they are using the Tesseract to develop weaponry. They're not actually using it to develop clean energy, which is what they're selling. They're selling this as this thing that can, power the world, basically. Now, maybe there is an element of using the Tesseract where we want to power the world and make weaponry. I mean, there is that possibility. But I do think that it's interesting that Loki is using this as his ploy here, basically saying, I know what you really want out of the Tesseract. You just want power. You want to use it to make weapons, not do this clean energy nonsense that Tony is doing. I find this to be a really interesting way to play the scene. I also think it's interesting that Barton clearly knew all of that. But I like that we're getting this. This is really where we're starting to get this setup of we can't really be trusting everything that Nick is saying, which is certainly going to play into the conversations we're going to have with Tony and Bruce and Steve over the next 10, 20 minutes or so as they start kind of digging deeper into what's really going on here. How does this setup for this work for you? Do you like the way that we're starting to get some of this information? And even though we don't know he's referencing Tony's clean energy with that line, he certainly is talking about the fact that Fury keeps pitching it as, yeah, you want to make clean energy. Is this making sense as far as a play for Loki at this point?
Yeah, I think that Loki's saying, look, I know the score, I know what's going on. And he's trying to use that as his power there, because he is in a cell, he can't do much else. But they're saying, I know what's going on. I know that this isn't about clean energy. This is about weapons. You know better than me.
Is that why Fury wraps the conversation up so quickly? Because he knows, well, we're assuming at this point, everybody kind of knows that this conversation is being monitored by the team up at the conference table.
Yeah.
Is that why Fury chooses this moment to just wrap it up by saying, let me know if Real Power wants a magazine or something, and walks out because he doesn't want Loki to say anything more and potentially give things away at this point?
Yes. I think that's true. And I think it's actually really interesting when he brings up that power, unlimited power, and then he looks at the camera on the line, a warm light for all to share, and cuts to not the Avengers, but to Maria Hill. And that, I think, is interesting. One, because she's standing like a zombie, that as if Loki is actually in her head. And that's one point I might give you. But in terms of his machinations,
hey, I'll take it. If it's just the one, I'll take it.
If it's just the one, that's all you get. In terms of his overall machinations around manipulating or baiting S.H.I.E.L.D., it's interesting that they cut to her because of all of the extra footage where she and Fury don't agree. And this is a point of potential conflict between the two that we don't get in this movie, but maybe we would have got had they made the complete movie that they intended to make.
Declan, have you seen any of the extended or deleted scenes from this film?
Not from this film, I don't think so. Or not that I remember. If I would have, it would have been quite a while ago.
Well, there's a really interesting set of extra footage where we get the sense that Maria Hill and Nick Fury don't agree on a lot of stuff. And the opening sequence of the movie is her being interviewed by the Security Council, and she talks about, she's talking about the decisions that Fury made that may have led to this, but then she turns and says he was right. And, but there was definitely antagonism between the two. And so when, that to me makes a greater point here when Loki is baiting Fury and they cut to Hill and she doesn't look happy. Like she is becoming more aware that there are nefarious things going on and maybe Fury isn't telling her everything. That's kind of my read on it. And it's a little bit of an unfair read because it's based on stuff that wasn't released in the film.
Yeah. I think it makes more sense with those extra bits. I mean, not that I remember them, but as you've described them, those extra bits add some depth to their relationship and the way she'd react to what's going on in this scene.
And certainly to her character, which is pretty thin.
Yeah. Well, and like how I can't remember. Honestly, the shot of Maria Hill is not super long. It's not anything that stands out as something that we're supposed to be noticing when you watch the film, but it does make you wonder what were we meant to read.
Right.
The fact that he looks back to the security camera at that point, and we cut to Maria Hill as an audience that didn't have any of that information. Like, what are we supposed to be reading from that?
Yeah, because in the cut of they made a conscious decision to cut to her. They could have cut to any of the Avengers. We haven't seen Black Widow in a while. Why not cut back to her? Bruce is standing off by the stairs. Why not cut back to him? We cut to Maria Hill for a reason. And I think that's a legacy cut from when there was more Maria Hill in the movie. That's my hypothesis.
It would have made the most sense, specifically since he is addressing Tony and he's talking about Tony and his Stark Tower, his clean energy, the power that he has running his building there. It would have made the most sense to actually cut to Tony watching this. And of course, we haven't seen Tony. And as we'll find out later, Tony's not even watching this. At least he doesn't seem to have been as he walks in. So it's weird that it seems a line very directed for Tony. We're getting a reaction shot of Maria Hill, which is responding to deleted footage that we didn't get to enjoy. And so it becomes, as you said, kind of a strange cut. Like, why do we cut to Hill here? And what are we meant to read from it other than, oh, she's also listening in?
It seems, quite irrelevant, doesn't it? Just to cut to her. They could have cut to someone making coffee in the next room. And that would have had the same. You'd have
random
gone,
shield agent.
Right. Because all she's doing is she's watching it and she's monitoring other things, and because we don't have any other background there, it doesn't feel like it's attached to what he's saying.
Yeah. Well, it is an interesting little beat. Again, it's a very short one, but it is an interesting one. Certainly, that would get fleshed out if those extended and deleted scenes had been left in the film.
Right. And I think the reason I went off on that tangent was to answer your specific question, Andy, which was, why do you think Nick Fury shut that conversation down? And I think, again, because of extended footage. Like, there's stuff we don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He knows Hill might be watching.
I don't think and I also don't think I don't think it doesn't work either, right? I mean, I think it's fine, and it moves us through the minute pretty quickly, and it's a fun conversation. It gives Loki a chance to preen. I think all of it, as the movie is presented, works. It's just, I think it's snatching sort of defeat from the jaws of victory, because I am one of the people who longs for a little bit more depth in their relationship between Nick and Maria.
Yeah. Fury uses that as his moment to walk out, and then we cut back to, and Loki, as we see, he walks toward the security camera, and then we cut to an over-the-shoulder of Steve looking at the footage, which is playing, of course, on the conference table. Of course, it's built right into the tabletop. And then it shuts itself off. I don't know who turns the camera off or why the camera turns off, but the camera feed conveniently does turn off at that moment.
Because Maria changed the channel for everybody.
I'm just going to go back to Loki's mind control, and I'm going to say he's actually controlling the cameras, and he chooses this moment to dramatically turn off the feed.
And nobody cares. There's no, hey, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, like, oh, I turned it on too late. What?
So I can imagine they'll go, hey, I'm watching that. Start trying to fiddle around with a load of knobs to try and turn it on.
Especially Steve, who has no clue how to control anything on a glass surface.
Right.
Especially with his heavy gloves on.
Yeah. And we get the last little bit of banter between Bruce and, well, it's not even banter. He really grows on you, doesn't he? I like Bruce being funny. I like Mark Ruffalo.
That's okay. So going back to the director and kind of we've seen this play out a lot over the course of the film, where you have a moment that is punctuated by a quick shift in something else, whether it's a music cut where the music cuts out and suddenly it changes tones completely, or there's something serious happening and then we get a comedic line punctuating the moment, which is what happens here, where we've got this big serious scene going on between these different characters and everyone's watching. And then Bruce has this kind of comedy punchline to it. He really grows on you, doesn't he? Which is kind of a fun way to kind of shift the tone and let us know as the audience, okay, the moment's over, we can move on. I mean, do you like that, Declan, the way that it plays with Bruce saying the line?
Yeah, I like that. I think it's realistic. I think we've all worked with people or, in offices or, with teams, and there's always that one person that will say something totally, ridiculous or out of place at the end of a serious meeting or conversation.
Yeah, to kind of like break the tension or whatever whatever the case may be. Yeah. I wasn't completely convinced I bought Bruce saying this line. It felt a little like a Tony line. But the more I watch the line, the more I see it, I feel like I can buy into Banner saying this. I think it could be something that he would throw out there.
Yeah, I do too. Because Banner, I have to remind myself, because of the way Ruffalo plays the character early on as kind of enfeebled, is that he's enfeebled, but kind of not really. Like, he's this nebbishy, sciencey guy who also is allowed to walk through the world unafraid of anything, right? Like, he's unafraid of anything. If he's afraid of anything, it's that his lack of fear is going to damage people, places, and things, right? Like, that is, so it doesn't surprise me at all that he is trying, like, he's the one who gets to make the snide remark in an audience of people that he still is kind of feeling out. Like, he doesn't know who these people are really. Like, he's shaking hands with them, and now he's on deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good point. That, this is all still the same day. According to the Marvel Wiki, this whole thing takes place over just like less than a week. It's a very quick story.
Right.
And yeah, they're all still getting to know each other. And Bruce, especially because he wasn't on the mission to Stuttgart, he hasn't had as much time.
He didn't have plane time.
He didn't have any plane time, right. So he's really kind of been, I don't know, I assume in his lab fiddling with that funky machine all this time. Probably waiting to get the scepter. Now he can kind of plug the scepter in and use it to help track things down.
Right.
Well, Steve at the end is the one getting everybody back on task. Loki's going to drag this out. He's trying to get back into the serious conversation here. And that's the end of our minute and our time with Declan this week. Any last thoughts about anything today or this week, Declan?
The only thing I could really think of is that I was quite sad when you said, come back, do these minutes. And I thought, there's no Phil Coulson in these minutes. Strange. But, so I was a little bit taken back. I nearly said no. But I thought, for you guys, I'd do it.
Oh, Declan.
Oh, well. And you're so close to Phil also, like so the very next minute.
I know, so close.
So close, but so far.
Well, we certainly appreciate you doing what you could to kind of work through that so that you can come back and join us, because we had a great time chatting with you about these minutes. It's a good set of minutes. I enjoy it. It's nice to kind of get into the meat of the mystery of what's going on the ship. So very fun. All right, Declan, tell everybody again one last time about your show and where they can tune in.
Yeah, so Scream Movie Minute. You'll be able to find it on all of your normal places you find podcasts. We have a Facebook page, Scream Movie Minute. Unless there's someone else doing it exactly the same time, I should be the only one.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'll be deeply disappointed if someone's just beaten me to it.
Right.
So episodes should be released hopefully by the time this episode is at the time you're listening to this episode, if not very, very shortly after.
Fantastic. Check that out, everybody. We certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks again so much, Declan.
Thank you.
And that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another guest. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to have Robin Burge back on the show to chat with us from Karate Kid Minute. So should be fun, should be a good conversation. And that's it. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Oh, Andy, tomorrow, Thor bears all.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.